Racing in the Parts World 365 rumble around the Wellington waterfront on the big day as the cars get off the start line and head down to the little kink in the track. And another great start by Chris Glazier. He's leading through. We've got the Brown Mini in second place, and not the best of starts for the man that qualified fastest in qualifying yesterday, Angus Fogg. As they come down to the hairpin, it's Glazier back in front. Tight through there. There's nothing in the first 3 or 4 cars. Jim Little back in the big Chrysler as Chris Glazier leads them back along Journalist Key towards the Wellington waterfront. John Ellie of Auckland, who was in the pre-65 race for the warm-up lap yesterday, but the Mustang blew a big clutch. John, I guess you wish you're out there.
Oh yes, this is very disappointing. We did so much for the car to get the car here, so forth. Preparation was actually done, and we just thought everything would be really spot on. We wanted to come here as it was a rumble. We wanted a deal to the South Island. They've had it for so many years.
Around the cars, come around the tight part of the Wellington circuit, and we've already seen some action on the track in the early stages of the race. There's cars that are jumping the rumble strips. We'll check with those very, very shortly, but out in front is Chris Glazier. Here's a little bit of action over that little rumble strip. Look at the Mini fly.
Oh, that was spectacular. What a place to do that. I wouldn't like to have seen him do that at full speed.
Probably wouldn't do a great deal for the suspension of the car either, I'd imagine.
No, he'd be finding that pretty hard now to play around with if anything's been dropped or bent or something.
Back on the Cable Street come the leaders to complete the first of 8 laps in the Parts World 365 rumble. That's Chris Glazier from the South Island, and it's again the South Islanders dominating this race, and he's actually opening up a little bit of a lead over the rest of the field. He's getting away from Angus Fogg and also from Phil Brown. Phil Brown holding second place, so the little Minis battling away there, and there in the distance in 4th place, the Valiant of Jim Little.
Now look at this. Here we've got Chris out in front there, and there are 2 little North Island cars here, and we're jamming up Jim here.
Angus Fogg slides the little Riley Elf through there, and I think he picks up second place, even though he put the car sideways. Jim Little's gone very wide. In fact, he might even drop a place. Spectacular driving from Angus Fogg. And those cars look identical. There's a Riley Elf and there's a little Mini with Phil Brown and that wee Mini. Let's have a look at that move by Angus Fogg. Takes the inside line, goes very tight through the hairpin, slides the little Riley Elf, and Jim Little almost gets squeezed out. The big car getting sandwiched between 2 little Minis. David and Goliath battle. And that really takes a lot of the pressure off Chris Glazier at the front of the field, John Ellie.
Yes, Chris now, he'll feel a little bit of buffer there now, which he will play on because he's got all the lines. The other 2 are actually trying and hopefully will succeed to keep Jim where he is. Jim, being who he is and what he is, will not give up. This is interesting. I like to see those 2.
We just watch it from a different angle this time, and we see Angus Fogg. No, it's a couple. In fact, I think that's that's the little Humber 80 of
Gary Berry there.
Gary Berry having his first outing around the Wellington waterfront. In fact, it was his son-in-law, Charlie Rollo, that we featured yesterday. It's actually Charlie Rollo's car, but back with the battle for second place. And this is it. Angus Fogg, there's oil on the circuit. We just noticed the oil flag there. Angus Fogg in second place, following very close behind him. We've got the Phil Brown Mini. And then we see in the distance in 4th place is Jim Little. Wonderful racing in the Parts World pre-65 rumble. Chris Glazier getting away from the field. Angus Fogg locking the brakes up just a little bit. Jim Little closing the gap on the Phil Brown car. And a good drive also coming from the number 28 car of Gareth Hall.
Yes, Gareth, he's a really good competitor. He's come up here from the South Island also. We're lucky to have this guy. He's actually coming on to Pukekohe. He's supporting pre-65. He's giving us, he's come up both years in a row.
The South Island pre-65 class, very strong. They've been established in the South Island around about 15 years, but John Ellie, you were responsible for starting pre-65s in the North Island, I think 5 years ago.
Yes, the concept caught on to me. I was actually service crewing for a rally car at the time in the South Island when I saw these cars racing. I wanted to know what was going on. I found out all about pre-65. I wanted to do it myself.
Steve Ross in the Mustang, negotiating the tighter part of the Wellington circuit. We've got a pre-65 parked up there. A little bit of action coming up on the Jervois Key chicane, and once again, all sorts of problems for Gary Berry. Gary Berry, one of the veterans of motor racing, over the top of the chicane. It's a very unforgiving chicane. If you make a mistake there, you bounce very, very high. And a big moment for Gary Berry and Charlie Rollo's Humber 80. As we check with the leaders again, coming onto the Jervois Key part of the circuit, Chris Glazier with a time of around 3.3 second lead. It's the difference between first and second place, 3.3 seconds back to Angus Fogg, but nothing in it between Angus Fogg and the Phil Brown car. And Jim Little closing the gap again on Phil Brown, but Jim Little having the bigger car. John Ellie has to go a lot wider around that tight hairpin.
Yes, Jim has to take a wider line, having the horsepower and everything. He has to get the traction to the car by going wider, which gives the opportunity for the little cars just to squeeze in and just nab it away from him, just to keep that break from him.
In a straight line, Jim Little would have the legs on the little cars, and you can see there that he closes right up, but through those tight corners, there's nothing like a mini around tight stuff, is there?
No, you can't beat those minis in a real tight situation like it is here at Wellington. Yes, Cable Street and coming down there is the horsepower for Jim, but really he has to come out of the corners with full power to be able to actually catch up to these little fellas, because once they get a little bit of break, it's very hard to sort of come back at them.
Coming up to the halfway mark of the Parts World Pre-65 Rumble, Jim Little from the South Island giving a little bit of a rumble to the third-placed car of Phil Brown, the wee mini, and Phil Brown in turn is keeping Angus Fogg of the North Island in his sight. So a fairly dominant class of South Islanders there in the Pre-65 Rumble, and out in front another of the South Islanders, Chris Glazier, and a lot of smoke coming from Phil Brown's car.
Yes, it looks like Phil's got something seriously happening here. Very disappointed to see if Phil has to drop away in this. It looks like Jimmy's now going to take Phil.
Through the chicanes they go. Jim Little will, I guess, smell the exhaust fumes in his car, and he knows, he can see that there's something wrong with Phil Brown. And we look at Jim Little coming through the hairpin. In fact, the fastest lap was posted on that last lap by Jim Little, a 1:48.30. And look at Phil Brown's car, the smoke front and rear.
Yes, it looks like Phil's done his dash, as we say here at Wellington. Very disappointing. We thought we had at least North Island second and third.
Well, a very disappointed Phil Brown. He drove a brave race. It's a very sad-looking little mini, the Pre-65 Phil Brown mini.
I can relate to what it is. You know, like there's oil there. Yeah, he's probably done his engine.
Over the halfway stage now of the Parts World Pre-65 Rumble on the Wellington waterfront on race day for the Nissan Mobile 500. Chris Glazier from the South Island, back where he was in the earlier heat yesterday, leading the Angus Fogg. Riley in second place. Chris Glazier first. Angus Fogg holding on to second place. Phil Brown, well, he was in third place. He's out of the race now. It moves Jim Little up from Gareth Hall up to fourth place, and Steve Ross.
Now look at all those Southerners again. Here we are, we're in a situation back to what it was last year, where the Southerners come up here, and our rumble now is sort of looking one-sided, but hang on in there, Angus.
Every time you go out there, John, is it a battle of the North versus the South Island?
Oh, definitely, yeah. We decided the South and the North have got a good reputation between them. Look at that now. Jim's just hit that barrier. That will actually help Angus stay away from him. He's probably done a little bit of damage in there.
Well, you mentioned him hitting the barrier. Here comes Jim Little in the big Chrysler flying through that bumpy part of the circuit, and it's a big bump. It's not just a little chicane. It's like putting a concrete block in the way virtually, isn't it, John?
Yes, no, that is. I did that the other day. It's now you can actually see he's blowing that back tyre on that car. It's yeah, it looks curtains for Jim now.
Well, disappointment for Jim Little in a big way. We noticed that right rear tyre right down to the rim, and he'll be wondering probably why the car is sliding around so much. Often you see him in a race doing that, but it's not because of the back tyre being flat. But this time it is right down to the rim, and Jim Little's Chrysler going very wide around the corners. He'll be getting the message now that the race will be terminating any moment for him, and a big disappointment for Jim Little. And here we go, Jim Little coming through the corner, the tyre right off the rim, and that probably would have been caused by hitting that chicane very hard.
Yeah, Jimmy can feel that tyre at the back now. He'll be he won't. I don't think Jimmy will stop. He'll keep that car going until either that wheel disintegrates or whatever. He'll keep himself going there.
The cars are coming back around towards the bumpy Cable Street part of the Wellington waterfront circuit. We watch Jim Little, and he'll certainly be feeling the bumps down Cable Street across the start-finish line. 2 laps to go for Chris Glazier to make it 2 in a row around the Wellington waterfront in the Parts World Pre-65 Rumble. Down to the hairpin, Chris Glazier in the Cortina, having a great couple of races, a good weekend in Wellington. Around the tight hairpin he goes. He's being followed closely by Angus Fogg of the North Island. We're trying to salvage a little bit of North Island pride for the North Island Pre-65 class. Is it a growing class, John Alley?
Oh, definitely. We started back in the early days, you know, with 5 cars going out there. We were initially criticised for bringing the class to the North Island, but you know, I was determined to put this together. Held on very tightly, did all the right things, poked in all the right places, put my nose in where it probably wasn't supposed to be a few times.
Fastest lap being posted by Angus Fogg. He is trying a 1:48.15 for Angus Fogg, and as we keep our eyes on him, we'll watch the little Riley through the corners, and he really just throws it in sideways. You'll see a lot of sideways drift on the Riley as he chases Chris Glazier very hard. Angus Fogg, who's been around motorsport in New Zealand for, well, a long time, really. Even though he's only 26 years old, he seems to have been around for a long time. Twice North Island Mini 7 champion. He's competed in Holden HQs and Formula V's, driven all sorts of minis to all sorts of successes. He feels at home in those little cars, and he can handle those little cars superbly. Two laps to go. Chris Glazier, Angus Fogg, Gareth Hall. That's how they stack up, with Jim Little now dropping back to 4th place. Then it's Steve Ross and Gary Rush. Under the Peanut Slab sign they come down. The Jervois keep out of the circuit. This time round onto lap 7. It's an 8-lap race for the Parts World Pre-65s. And I think somehow Chris Glazier opening up the gap now, just over 2 seconds, nearly 2.5 seconds over Angus Fogg. Angus seems to make up the time at the hairpin. Three-quarters of the way home on the Wellington waterfront, the Parts World Pre-65 Rumble. Chris Glazier in front. And a big moment on the track now as we watch the Falcon being chased by Albie Collier. That's Keith Mann, and he loses it in a big way. Doesn't park it quite into the Armco. Lets Albie Collier sneak through. So a big moment for the Falcon of Keith Mann.
Yeah, poor Keith there. You know, like this guy's only just come into racing with us and built a Falcon. Hopefully to give me some competition, but to lose it there and give his place up, he won't be very happy with that.
Not too far to go now for Chris Glazier from the South Island out to make it 2 in a row. 2 first on the Wellington waterfront of the Parts World Pre-65 Rumble. We watch the cars coming off the waterfront back towards the city part of the circuit around a very tight right-hander. It's a short straight, then into a left-hander, another short straight, and it's onto Jervois Quay, onto Cable Street, then onto Jervois Quay, and the checkered flag for Chris Glazier. Chris Glazier now having to negotiate some of the slower traffic on the circuit. Out of Cable Street, down towards the checkered flag, and he makes it 2 in a row for the South Islanders in the Pre-65s. Here he comes, the checkered flag for Chris Glazier in first place, and we look for Angus Fogg tucked in behind some of the slower markers. Angus Fogg coming home in 2nd place with the 3rd place car of Gareth Hall.